Welcome to County Fair on Waycross Community Media. I'm Dana Gagnon, Government Programming Coordinator at Waycross, and today I want to look ahead to the election coming up in November. This is a really good time to make sure you're ready to be part of it. You will, of course, hear a lot about Election Day and what's happening at the national level. But here at Waycross, where we connect you to the local community, I want to remind you that there's more on your ballot than the national races. Local races and issues are often decided by a small number of votes. If you want to feel like your vote really matters, then make sure you're ready to vote on the local candidates and issues. What kind of things do I mean? Well, in our area, besides voting for president and representatives to Congress, we'll also vote for Ohio State Senator. We'll vote for Ohio State representatives. We'll also vote for the Hamilton County Commissioners and the Hamilton County Sheriff, among others. Several of our areas also have levies on the ballot to fund their local fire departments, their police departments, and their school districts. For local issues and candidates, each person's vote has more of an impact on the final tally. So you want to make sure that you're ready to vote. The first part of being ready to vote is to make sure you're registered. Go to votehamiltoncounty.org for everything you need to know about the election if you live in Hamilton County. Right on the front page of votehamiltoncounty.org, you will see a tab that says Check Registration. If you put your name and address into the fields at that tab, you'll know right away if you're already registered to vote. If you've moved, there'll be a spot right there too where you can update your registration. So if you're already registered, if you go and check your registration and there you see it on the website, you can click to update your registration if you have changed your name, if you've gotten married, or if you've moved. You have to make sure that they have the current information for you so that you will have the easiest possible time voting on Election Day. Now, if you've never registered before and you just want to go to the website and register, you can click Register right there at the top of the page. The deadline to register to vote is 30 days before an election. So that means this time the deadline is October 5th if you want to vote in the November 3rd election. Now you can go online to register. You can also go and print a form to mail in. You can also go in person to register to vote to any library or Bureau of Motor Vehicles. If you don't have a printer, you can call the Board of Elections and they will mail you the form so that you can register to vote. Now, if you have a printer, go ahead and print some more of these registration forms and you can share them with your neighbors that might not have printers. If you collect a few extra stamps and bring them some registration forms, you can help make sure that your whole neighborhood is registered to vote and they can be part of the decisions being made on the local issues for your neighborhood. Now that you have registered to vote, the next thing you can do is make sure you know what you'll be voting for. Now you can go right back to votehamiltoncounty.org and you'll see that there's a spot on that page that says Find Sample Ballot. When you put in your address, you will get a sample of the ballot you will be voting on Election Day. That address you put in is important because you want to vote for the people who are running in your town, not other towns in Hamilton County. And you wouldn't want someone in Anderson to vote on how money is spent in Green Hills. So you put your address in and it will tell you exactly what your ballot will look like at your neighborhood polling place. That's also why it's important to update your address with the Board of Elections before Election Day, because then you make sure that you are scheduled to vote on the issues in the neighborhood in the school district where you live now. These sample ballots show up on their website 46 days before Election Day. So you can start looking for them on September 18th. Once you see all the races and the issues you'll have on your ballot, then you can start researching. Once you start your research, you'll see there's not as much out there about your local candidates and issues as there is about the national candidates. For over 30 years, Waycross Community Media has held in this studio election forums to make sure that you get to hear from your local candidates. This year, we'll have our live election forums at the end of September. Viewers will be able to watch on cable or online, and viewers will be able to email in their questions to the candidates while we're on the air. You can follow our Facebook page, Waycross Community Media, to find out more as we get closer to those dates. All right, now that you have registered and you have researched, now it's time to be ready to go and do the actual voting. If you're voting in person, it matters what polling place you go to. Different neighborhoods, as I mentioned before, have different issues and candidates. So if you're voting in person, make sure you go to the right precinct. That's your polling location. Also make sure when you go to your precinct that you bring along an ID. Here's what the list of accepted IDs are to vote in person. Your Ohio's driver's license or Ohio identification card, a utility bill, a bank statement, a government check, a payroll check, government document, or a military ID. Those are IDs that mean when you come in person, they know it's you and they'll just go ahead and you can scan your vote. Now, if you forget one of those things and you go to vote in person, you can cast what they call a provisional ballot. A provisional ballot still counts. It just means that before they scan that in, they're going to have you put it in an envelope and write the last 4 digits of your Social Security number on there for identification. And they'll check that before they scan it in. That's all it means. So if you do go to the polls in person and you don't bring an ID, you'll be voting in a provisional ballot envelope. That just means that will go down to the Board of Elections and get checked before they scan that in. Now, you can also vote by mail. You can request an absentee ballot. Absentee ballots in this country date back to the Civil War, when Lincoln was running for re-election in 1864. Secretary of War Stanton devised this system that would allow soldiers to vote, and that had a huge impact on whether or not Lincoln was going to get elected to a second term. That affected all of the history that we learned in school. But back to this election. Right on the front page of votehamiltoncounty.org, you can request your absentee ballot. You can also track your ballot on their website. Once your ballot has been requested, where your ballot is, and when they're counting it, they will track that, and you can keep an eye on that after you vote. Make sure you fill out all the parts of the envelope that comes with your absentee ballot. That's how they can check your ID and make sure it's a legitimate ballot to count. Now, when your absentee ballot is all filled out, you can either mail it back, you could drop it off in person at the Board of Elections in Norwood. You have to do that by 7:30 p.m. on Election Day. If you mail it in, they have to receive it by 7:30 p.m. on Election Day, or it can be postmarked the day before Election Day and then received 10 days, up to 10 days after Election Day. The Board of Election is telling us to use postage stamps and have your post office postmark the sealed return envelope. They're saying do not use a postage meter or online service. If you do that, they won't have the record of the date you mailed it. The U.S. Postal Service is estimating that it may take 2 to 5 days for your voted absentee ballot to make it to the Board of Elections. So keep that in mind when you request your absentee ballot. Don't wait until the day before the election to fill that out. Go ahead, as soon as you get it in the mail, fill that out, mail it back in, and you will be completely done with it. Now, if you request an absentee ballot and you just completely forget to vote it, and it is election morning and you know it is too late to bring that back to the Board of Elections, and you want to go to your polling place, you can't just take that absentee ballot and put it in their scanner. That's not one of the official ballots that goes with that polling place. What you can do is request a new ballot at your polling place. Now, when they open their book, they're going to have a note that says, this person requested an absentee ballot. And they're going to have you vote in one of those provisional envelopes too. The reason for that is to make sure that your absentee ballot isn't already there and that somehow two of them get voted. So you'll vote in a provisional envelope, and they will check it when it gets down to the Board of Elections and make sure it is not the second one to get there for you. And then they'll go ahead and count the vote. So you can vote in person, you can vote with an absentee ballot by mail, and you can, in Ohio, also do early voting. About 4 weeks before Election Day, there are scheduled dates where you can go in person and do early voting at the Board of Elections in Norwood. Early voting allows you to make sure you get a chance to get your vote in without worrying about the Postal Service and without worrying about what it's going to be like on Election Day. The very first day scheduled for early voting is October 6th. It'll go right through to the day before Election Day on November 2nd. The specific times and dates for those are all on the website, votehamiltoncounty.org, so you can get all of those details there. The Board of Elections in Norwood is on 4700 Smith Road. That's where you can find them. So now you have 3 different ways to make sure you can be part of the election. You can vote in person on Election Day. You can request your absentee ballot and either mail it back in or drop that absentee ballot back off at the Board of Elections yourself. And you can do early voting at the Board of Elections right up until the day before Election Day. Now, let's cover some of the dates to make sure you can put them on your calendar and be ready for this year's Election Day. The last day to register to vote for this election or to update your name and address with the Board of Elections is October 5th. You can do that on their website, or you can call them and ask for the form, and they'll send you the form that you need to update your information. The last day to request an absentee ballot be mailed to you is noon on October 31st. Make sure you get your request for an absentee ballot in before noon on October 31st. Now, I'll tell you, that's not a lot of days before the election. Request your absentee ballot right away because you need time for that to get mailed to you, and then if you're going to mail it back, you need time to mail it back. So I will say the last official day is noon on October 31st. Don't wait until noon on October 31st. The Board of Elections will start mailing out the absentee ballots on October 6th. So you can request them all through September. They won't start putting them in the mail to you until October 6th. October 6th is also the first day of early voting. If you want to go to the Board of Elections in person and do early voting, you can go October 6th. They have various dates and times scheduled all the way till November 2nd. Again, votehamiltoncounty.org has all of that information. And then, of course, Election Day, November 3rd. Polls open at 6:30 in the morning. Polls close at 7:30 at night. You need to make sure you are in line at the polls before they close. So make sure you plan extra time on that day to get there if you want to make sure you are voting in person. Of course, there'll be a lot for us to find out between now and November 3rd how voting in person is going to look. Thanks to COVID-19, voting in person may look differently this year, which is why on County Fair today, I wanted to take a little extra time and talk about many different ways we have to vote so that everyone can be part of this election. Of course, we have national issues and we're hearing plenty about those, But our Waycross communities have local issues and local candidates that need feedback from the members of the community. They need to hear your yes and no votes right in the neighborhoods where you live, and it will make a difference because it's just your neighbors that are voting on those issues. So if you have any other questions about voting this year, make sure you go to votehamiltoncounty.org. And I want to thank you for watching County Fair on Waycross Community Media.